It means a lot to have a Black publication on this campus. It means actually the world.
I'm literally sitting here participating in this historical thing. You know, like this is actually something that's like history in the making.
The Black voice is a product of Black students on campus, right? Like, let me not act like anybody handed it to us.
When people ask me, oh, you go to UW-Madison, do you work for the Cardinal or Herald? Neither, I work for the Black voice. Like the statement that has, what's the Black voice? Oh, let me tell you.
1971 was when the first issue of the Black Voice was released, and it is 2021. Jordan Gaines revived it, but when you think in retrospect, like, it's been 50 years since the first issue. This is a very milestone year and a milestone moment.
The Black Voice was founded and published its first issue at the University of Wisconsin-Madison back in 1971. The Black Voice was created with a mission to provide a safe space for Black and African diasporic students attending UW-Madison. Beyond the campus itself, the Black Voice also serves surrounding communities. Following the Black student strike that took place at UW-Madison in 1969, the Black Voice became a space of collaboration, acceptance, and above all, community. The Black Voice was one of the only spaces that Black students felt truly belonged to them. In 1973, the Black Voice released its final print issue. After serving the campus for 2 years, the Black Voice seemed to lose steam until it was revitalized in 2015 by Jordan Gaines. She knew the Black Voice's history and knew it was critical for the Black community on UW-Madison's campus.
I never really knew what to call myself, recreator, reviver, the person who thought to bring it back from the original thing that it was in the 70s. What I really noticed is like there was just no space for our stories on campus. I wanted us to have a space where we could tell our stories in full, and we can be our full holistic selves as, you know, Black folks with joy, folks starting businesses, folks just being, you know, telling jokes. First semester of my senior year was all about establishing it. And so that was me, you know, creating a website and doing the marketing and creating social media, like, and then also, you know, finding students to write, coming up with topics and pitches to write, and like getting pitches from students, and then like coming up with content, coming out with the way to release it, like marketing. We were looking at doing some sort of collaborative event. That's like six, like in a newsroom, it's like 6 people's jobs.
To see this Black woman honestly lead like this newspaper that was created by and for Black students into like this recovery period, it really kind of sparked and ignited something in me and also like my peers who also were a part of the Black Voice to really be interested in like, okay, not only are we going to recover these stories, but what does it look like to currently like tell these stories that are currently happening right now?
But I really didn't truly know like whether it was like useful or whether students liked it or not until after I graduated and I saw it continue.
And I can't remember if it was Jordan or Sue who pursued me about if I wanted to be an editor. And at the time it was just one editor. You had to be the head honcho over it all. And I was super flattered that they had considered me because Jordan, I always call her my shiro. And I had never led anything like that before, you know.
Really cool because the initial group was, although small, everybody played an amazing role. It was only like 5 of us, and we all sat and we were just like, you know, oh, I want to make a film, or I want to do, you know, I want to do these series of articles. I want to do reviews. I want to do YouTube videos. What is it that we all would love to do that we can't explore in the spaces that are already created within these walls?
There was a lot going on at that time, and not just on campus, but on the national level, right? That trickled down to the campus level where Black students weren't feeling safe, right?
There were also Black Lives Matter protests happening. I was there and walking in those marches, and I was also like taking photographs. Also, Trump was elected when I was in college. Of course, being a Black student journalist is definitely, that's gonna, you know, affect your experience.
Just having the community of the Black Voice changed the way I came to college because it wasn't about like going to class and doing homework and doing exams and going home. It was everything is literally a story, but what is the story that's going to be told?
I think that something the Black voice really emphasizes is like being multidimensional. And what I mean by that is, I think being on UW-Madison's campus is actively fighting to be a multidimensional Black human being on a campus that is looking at you one-dimensionally.
The only big thing I think it did is just showed another example, though, of how difficult it is for Black students on campus, especially or in my experience, at least at UW, to have to be doing that work, to kind of be having to juggle being charged with, creating, maintaining, sustaining, and for many of us, funding the spaces that we need to feel safe, to feel, alive, to feel joy, to feel happy, because the university didn't think it was their responsibility. So we had to be solely responsible for that while also still doing all the stuff that every other student was doing. Like, it was a lot, and in that way, it's kind of unfortunate that had to be most of our experiences, that we have to do that in order to survive at UW.
And it's really hard now because of the pandemic. People can experience the Black voice in person. So I know that sucks, but continuing to really figure out ways to archive this moment and kind of really settle in what the purpose of it all is amazing.
My first year with the Black voice happened in the middle of the pandemic. I was introduced to it in an entirely virtual setting. I think that the best part about it, shockingly, was not even, writing the stories that I got to write during the semester, but it was being able to be in conversation with the other student journalists who are covering these types of events, or, just being on the ground and being on this campus during a time that I think really is historical and that we'll look back on and recognize how impactful, we had the capacity to be.
A lot of the times as students, we get so we're so undervalued and so discredited because it's oh, you're not professionals yet, you're not in the industry, and it's that doesn't take away from the meaningful work that we're doing and the importance of our work.
We have a lot of stories, and there's a lot of rich history and culture that exists amongst Black students on this campus. There's a lot of movers and shakers on this campus that deserve more than to just be, do trauma porn for these newspapers, or to just be diversity photos for the bookstore or whatever.
Every year, for Black History Month, when they bring in a speaker and we think about who can moderate or facilitate this conversation with whoever speaker we're bringing in, one of the first names that comes up is always a student that's in the Black voice, right?
I think that's something that was super cool was when Amara La Negra was on campus for Latinx Heritage Month, and I had the opportunity to sit down and interview her. I think that was the first time I actually felt super validated in being a journalist.
You had a dinner with me, Misha Simber. I will never forget that because she's the White House correspondent. And so I remember sitting at the dinner table with us and talking about her life and also talking about her career. You don't get many chances to meet those people.
I never been in the press box. I never done a press conference, and I got to my first meeting and I was I want to do sports. And they're oh, bet we never had somebody do sports. So we got you. And next thing I know, I'm in Camp Randall in the press box with all these professional journalists. And I'm wow, this is surreal.
I remember Marquise and Nia did a documentary on going to the Smithsonian, African American Smithsonian Museum.
I guess me and Nia realized, this is what it means to be a traveling filmmaker. We had to carry our equipment everywhere. That wasn't too much fun. We dealt with dead batteries and cameras not working and all that stuff, but it was fun.
And when they screened it for us, played it for us before it was premiering to everyone else, the room was just silent. We all just had goosebumps and we're teary-eyed, and we were just oh my gosh, y'all really just did that,
The most meaningful project I actually got to work on that I'm really grateful UW Communications asked us about was working on the 1969 Black student strike. Because in talking to some of the folks who were in charge of organizing the strike, again, it was like this feeling of being like, this is not just us. Like, this has been like an ongoing struggle. Like, folks have been in my shoes before.
We were a part of like the 50th year anniversary. Like when people like look at the website, and like the website is done so beautifully, but it's like, who did the interviews? We did the interviews, like students.
And it's crazy to think that like we were able to participate in something that we were able to bring that like monumental history back to campus. It was incorporated into Black History Month that year too for UW-Madison's campus. So it was nice to be able to kind of like take what we do in our own journalism community and bring it out broader so that all of the campus, all of Madison, all of the world can see it.
This year has been definitely not a year to forget as much as we want to, being all virtual.
I mean, one of the most pivotal ones to me is the roundtable that we did last semester. It was a really great conversation, first of all, a really wonderful learning opportunity, but we did have a Zoom bomb situation.
There are going to be people who are going to try to smother your voice, you know? Like, we had that Zoom call where we were just talking about our experiences in J school, and homie pops up and screams the N-word at us. Yeah. And we're like, yo, what's up, bro?
We did all, look at each other. We obviously acknowledged it, but we kept going because we recognized the validity and the importance of telling our story. And that was what the whole panel was about, was saying why we wanted to be journalists, why we mattered, why we should be in the room. We weren't going to let that stop us. The notable thing about doing that panel, and then we made a video after talking about what occurred in it, was that it raised a lot of awareness among people about what it's like to be, a Black student on this campus and to feel, threatened every day. I don't know if for a lot of people that was legitimate until you see it happen to your peers.
I have to say that one of my proudest moments was watching you all question the chancellor in the fall. It was just so illuminating to me to see the administration, being called out by students. To me, it came to this apex of a moment for me where I was like, oh, the Black voice has arrived.
Having people be accountable and using journalism as a way to be to make change in our own lives and in our own experiences at UW, but then I think also just for after, because now they know that the Black voice is coming for their necks. They know not to forget us in an interview.
To just document that we were here, we are here, we were an active, crucial presence on this campus, and that you cannot tell this campus's history without us. And it needs to come from our mouths, not from some outside perspective, only thinking to highlight our moments of trauma and despair and sadness. But know that there was a girl here who had a natural hair blog, whose natural hair was flourishing. Know that there were artists here who had poems, many of whom are now, people publishing books and stuff. Know that they were here and they contributed to this community and they contributed to this work. I think that that's really important.
When I think of the folks in my life who have been, just instrumental to my own personal development and my career itself, definitely starting from the Black voice.
I literally just remember being in the room with Lexi, Marquise, and Bree. And they were just so much fun that I was like, I feel like these are my people. Lexi was someone that I aimed to be like, you know what I mean? I was like, oh shoot. I was like, I want to be like Lexi. Just because she was so confident in who she was as a person and her presence on campus.
You have to be authentic to yourself. I want to look back and know that because of me being myself, I opened the doors for someone else to feel like they're their self as well.
The affirmation that we always got from one another or from within the space of the Black voice, was able to ring in the back of my head when I'm sitting in a journalism class. One Black person in a room of 30 white students, really. It was okay, I know who I am because of what I'm being told in the Black voice, and that my voice does matter.
Black voice really offered me a space where I was able to practice new things and practice pitching, and that experience allowed me to get internships. And so I was able to intern at the Wisconsin State Journal, Madison 365, Essence Magazine, the Wall Street Journal.
I went to Milwaukee PBS, where I am now. I'm a producer for Black Nouveau, which is a public affairs show about the African American community in Milwaukee.
I got my film training from the Black Voice, and now I am living a life that I was denying myself because I didn't see anyone who looked like me. Now I'm the person that looks like me doing said thing.
I feel like the Black Voice, and being a Black journalism student on this campus and like going into the field of education, it made me like more attuned to marginalized voices that I think is gonna serve me well in the classroom. So I'm just happy that I get to give that to my students when they feel silent, when they feel unheard. I'm gonna be the one that's gonna be like, no, your voice and story is valued in my space. And I think that's when the best learning happens.
Like, if you would have told me in 2017 when I first came in the Black Voice that I would be in New York, that I would be, you know, in the dance company that I had manifested, if you had told me like I would have been writing people actually want to pay me for my writing, like I would have been like, are you sure? Are you sure? But it's the reality.
It's been my privilege, frankly, to watch all of you accomplish the things that you've been able to do.
And so I think it goes beyond just being a journalist. I think the Black Voice has also taught me how to be like a good person and how to make sure that I'm not just looking out for myself, but the person next to me, and that I'm not just, you know, trying to reach the top for myself, but we're all trying to reach the top.
And I think this year, having us do all these productions and putting all these things on, it's a really nice like way to sum up and kind of like showcase all the passion, all of the energy, all the dedication, all of the love, what we've learned in classes, and just kind of like put it out into the world.
I went to the National Association of Black Journalists Conference, and Sue, unbeknownst to me, had nominated the Black Voice for an award, and we won. And to like hear that the Black Voice, you know, won an award, it felt really amazing. And it reassured me that just the contribution in general that I wanted to make to my community at large and do with my life was not invalid.
Really, when it first started, it was like, we have this Black woman that, you know, brought this back to campus, and then it was passed down to me, and then it was passed down to Nia and Marquise, and then it was passed down to Bree and Kanala, and now you and Nile. So I love that when I look back at the lineage, it's just seeing so many young Black women that are keeping it alive, finding ways to expand it, and always leveling up. Like every year it's better and better.
And to know people looked at the Black Voice in it being ran by primarily Black women, and to know that that was a powerful thing, I'm like, okay, y'all, like we working up in here, we moving and shaking up in here.
When we look back, we're gonna see so many alum from the Black Voice that are gonna be big. Their names are gonna be big in lights somewhere, because there's so many of us that have just found their passion, and it all started at the Black Voice.
Don't minoritize us. There's nothing minor about what we do, who we are, where we come from. Like everything is big, everything is major. We're a big deal.
It is a legacy of Black folk who found their voice at an institution who constantly told them not to have one, you know, and had fun with it too.
You know, we standing on the shoulder of giants, and I feel like you don't want to be a twig on the shoulder of a giant. Like, no, you're gonna be a giant. Like, so other giants can stand on you. Like, it's like everybody has to be a giant, and it's cool for everybody to be that. There's nothing wrong with that.
I think when I think of what the Black Voice means to me, I feel like the Black Voice really just means like soul. I think that it has like such like an eclectic like spirit, and like the way that we all like vibe, and the way that we all are there for each other. And even now, like even with Zoom, the fact that we're doing it together and we've been through it since the beginning, and like, you know, like now we're like, you know, the last lap of the marathon, it's just like, wow, like we did that. And honestly wouldn't have been able to do without my two other like editors. Like props to them, because they're both amazing. And I feel like us together as like a trio are literally fearless. Like no one has done it like us. No one will ever do it like us. I'm sorry.
the world was never normal, but when we are able to all be together again, I'm excited to support my Black Voice family in everything that they do and ensuring that we continuously show the people that are coming to UW that look at these group of Black people who took this thing that was virtually lost and virtually, erased. They took this thing, they made it something of their own while paying homage and honor to the legacy that was already created. And look at what they created and look at where they are now.
Just knowing it was there was really important. Like, if this space wasn't here at all, I really don't know what I would be doing, especially after this past year, and it has really exposed me the importance of having a community.
To me, the Black voice represents the seeds that we continue to sow for the generations to come.
As always, shout out to the Black voice. But I'm proud of y'all. Y'all are doing amazing things, even in this crazy time. Like, y'all done got me excited. The Black voice, it's just it for me. It's the Black voice for me. Can y'all put that on a shirt? It's the Black voice for me.
Yeah.